Hey, hi guys, hello and welcome back to my channel Elucidate. Okay, and guys, today we are going to understand a very important topic named as exception handling. So, before I proceed, guys, let me tell you one thing is that recently we had an interview with a guy. He was very a techie kind of guy, but he was not able to understand a very basic thing which was related to exception. I didn't intended that the interview panel is going to get so much of deep, but he was very close to of getting selection, but due to some of the answers that he gave, he was totally fully confused at some point of time. So guys, it is a very easy topic. Let me make it very clear, but at some of time, depending upon the mind of your interviewer, how much he or she may get involved, how much deep they go, it totally depends. So you need to know a little bit of deeper stuff as well, and it's not very deep, but at least you should know, right? So let's starting the lecture, and I'm really sorry guys that I'm making this lecture a little bit late because I'm also working into some of the organization. I really find time you know to make these lectures, but yes, what happened 2 days back, I thought that I have to make this particular lecture because I don't want any techie guys just like you all people who are learning Java, or you are an automation guy or a normal manual tester, or anyone who is learning Java. I don't want you guys, when you go for interview, you should not make these particular mistakes. So this is very important. You guys should know, and I'm making this lecture for you guys only and only. Okay. So without wasting your guys' time, let's immediately start this particular lecture. So first of all, we need to understand what this exception is all about. If I say that Rahul, Mohan, Alex, Jennifer is coming to my party, except Mohit and Alex, or anyone, let's say. So it means that Mohit and Alex are exempted. They are not allowed to enter to a party, right? Which means that in normal language, exception basically means that you are exempted from something. You are not allowed, right? This is the meaning that I've taken jotted it down from the Google, which says that a person or a thing that is excluded from a general statement or does not follow a rule. So just a normal, I mean, the meaning that I have taken from the Google. But when you talk about in terms of programming language, exception basically means an unwanted event that normally occurs when your program is running, right? So if your program is running, if something happens, then you should need to handle, right? And when some issue occurs, then what you would be doing, that basically is termed as exception handling. So in normal talking terms or general talking terms, it means that if this is happening, then this should happen. If this is happening, then that should happen. So you have to code it down properly, right? You have to handle all the exception. If this exception is coming, then immediately this should happen. Now again, coming back to a normal life example, let's say you guys have planned a particular trip to Goa, and there are 4 to 5 of your friends. On the way, when you are going to Goa, let's say your tires of your car simply burst out, or something, police guys caught you due to any other reason. Then if something happens, then what should happen? If police catches you, then what you would be doing? If your tire got burst, then it means that you would be taking a flight, you would be taking a bus, or you would be taking a particular train in order to reach Goa, right? So this is how you handle exceptions in your daily life as well. If this happens, then I will do this particular stuff, right? So the same thing happens with the programming itself. If you are writing a particular piece of code, then it's you are not god that whatever you write in one go, in at a stretch, everything would be working fine. There would be some exception, there would be some errors. So error is totally different. I would be discussing errors onto my next lecture, but this lecture is totally confined to exceptions, right? So we'll be discussing everything about exception. Okay. So guys, this was all about the basic meaning of exception and how when we handle that particular unwanted event, that becomes your exception handling, both in your normal life and both in your programming language as well, right? So because you do not want the normal flow of the program to be disturbed, let's say some your file of your missing, and if you have not handled a particular exception, then all your program will get stopped at that point of time, right? So don't worry, we are going to do each and every exception in very detail, and with the help of a demo as well, right? So I'll try to wrap this session very quickly because I do not want to waste time, guys. So first of all, we need to understand this exception hierarchy diagram. Only then you'll be able to proceed ahead, right? So I have jotted it down over here onto this particular Excel PPT. So this is your java.lang.object. This is the class, and this is a throwable. It is divided into two parts. One is your exception and one is your error. Error, as I've already said, I'll be discussing everything in detail, and that too demo wise manner. I'll tell you guys what errors are all about, what are the differences between exceptions and error, but please stick over here with respect to exception, right? Okay, so there are two types of exception. One is your inbuilt exception and one is your user defined exception. So whatever you are seeing over here, these are your inbuilt Java exception. Java will immediately throw all these exceptions based upon whatever the programming logic you have done. Okay, and one is your user defined exception. User defined exception is that, if this happens, then my exception should get thrown. I'll tell you that also, but let's stick over here with respect to exception. So these are your inbuilt exceptions, and these are of basically two types. One is of your unchecked exception, and another one is called your checked exceptions. And these are further categorized onto all these exceptions. So class not found, instantiation, SQL, IO, no such method, file not. These are all checked exception, which means that they will be checked by compiler. This is why I have written over here like compile time. So all those exceptions that are occurring during your compile time are known as checked exceptions, and all those exceptions which are not checked by the compiler, please note it down somewhere. This is an important interview question. Exceptions which are not checked by compiler, they are known as unchecked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions, okay, and you need to learn some of them. These are, guys, please do not think that there are only 6 to 7 checked and 6 to 7 unchecked. There are hell lot of, there are numerous exceptions that are being fired by Java, right? So we cannot cover each and every, but these are most important and asked in interview, so you should learn them. These are very simple, these are very easy. This is the reason why I have jotted it down over here, right? So that, while giving an interview, I mean, nobody would ask you beyond these or any other exceptions, until and unless that guy totally freaks you out, right? So what are your unchecked exceptions? If I click over here, so these are checked exceptions which are only checked at the runtime. So all your unchecked exceptions are checked at the runtime. And if a program throws an unchecked exception, it reflects some error inside the programming logic. It means that whatever you have written onto your program, there is some defect in your programming logic. This is why this error is appearing. Guys, whatever I am saying, word to word, please hear it out very importantly, right? So again, I'm reiterating this line. If a program throws an unchecked exception, it means that it is reflecting some error inside our programming logic, which means that our programming logic is not efficient, due to which this particular error has occurred, right? And what are your compile time exceptions or checked exceptions? It is the time at which your source code gets converted into an executable code. You should know, I mean, at the time of interview, you should tell these answers, right? That at this is the time at which our source code gets converted into an executable code, right? While the runtime is the time at which the executable code starts to running, right? So you guys need to have this particular piece of information, especially when you are going for an interview. I know some of you may get, confused, but do not get confused. It's very easy. There are two types of exceptions: unchecked. Those exceptions which are not checked by the compilers, they become unchecked, and those exceptions which are checked by the compilers, they become checked exceptions, right? So this was all about Java, right? But I will try to explain you about all these exceptions in terms of very normal language, I mean, which nobody would be able to tell you. So first try to understand, let's say compiler, I mean, allow me to open my, let's say this is a person into your house which owns the entire authority, right? And term him as compiler. He may be your brother, he may be your sister, he may be your father or mother. Let's say they are the compiler of your house, right? So whatever thing is being going on into your house, let's say you have organized a particular party, and a lot of, stuff has been prepared, right? Like some sort of curry, or mutton curry, or your some egg dishes, or your fried rice, XYZ, right? Let's say a particular party is also being held onto your house, and it is currently going on. Let's say this compiler is your father. I know I'm taking a very very weird example, guys, but you guys need to understand in terms of normal life. Otherwise it would be difficult for you to to remember all these things, right? First, non-technically, right? Let's say a party is going on to your house. You have there are a lot of dishes have been prepared. Your egg curry, mutton curry, fish curry, oh man, I mean fried rice, Manchurian, X number of things have been prepared, right? So what is your compile time error? Whenever these things are getting prepared onto your house, whenever these things are getting prepared onto your house, you need some ingredients. If those ingredients are not present, right? If eggs are not present, right, if your fish is not present, then your father's gonna say that if these dishes are not present, how you are gonna make all these number of dishes, how you are gonna make egg dish, or how you are make a fish curry or egg curry or xyz, right? These are all these errors that are being checked by your father. Let's say he is a compiler, so are the errors he's gonna give at the time of compile time, right? But when you people start eating it, when you guys start eating it, let's say salt is less, right? Let's say salt is less, or let's say it is very much spicy. Then this is not the fault of your father. This is not your compile time error. This is runtime error. You guys have started actually eating it. You are running it. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I hope you guys are getting it. But at the time of runtime, at the time of being execution, when you are executing it, when you are eating a particular food, if salt is not present, if it is too much spicy, if it is even less spicy or greater spicy, then it means that person who has prepared that particular food has done something wrong. This is the programming logic error, right? So your unchecked exceptions normally occur when there is some error or some issue into your programming logic, right? Let's say you're dividing a number by infinity. You have defined an array which does not even exist for that particular number of elements. So these normally occur at the runtime, but these kind of exception will occur at the time when compiler will be checking it, right? So this is your SQL exception, IO exception, your class not found. So these, if I talk about in terms of Java, it means that compile time errors are gonna appear when your Java application is connected to some outer resource, right? Outer resources means that if you have not defined a class, if your file is not present, if there is a SQL database not connected properly, if a method is not present in your class but it is present onto some other class, let's say xyz, right? So if your Java application is not connected to the outer source, then it means that checked exceptions can occur. But in case of unchecked exceptions, these are not even mandatory to handle. These are mandatory to handle because they have been found by the compiler at the compile time. I mean, and just take the same example. If your father has found something and he says that you know if the fish is not there, how you're gonna prepare the fish curry, then it means that you need to handle it. You need to bring fish and then fish curry would be made. Just a weird example. In the same way, if the file that you have, in which from which you have to read the particular data, if that file is not even present, then it will say that if your file is not present, then what I'm gonna how I'm gonna run this particular thing. So first that file should be present. So these are all compile type error, right? Which are known as checked exceptions because they are basically checked by the compiler, and these are known as unchecked exceptions because they are not checked by the compilers. And if even if you do not handle them, it's okay, right? But these exceptions need to be handled. In the same way, if your father says something, you need to handle it. In the same way, if he doesn't say anything, these are not checked by your father, it's okay. If you handle, well and good. If you do not handle, that too, well and good. I hope I have made some sense, although I have made use of a very, very illogical kind of example, but this is just to make you guys clear, right? And guys, I'll be going through each and every exception. I'll be going through in very, very detail, right? And I have prepared a demo for you guys for the couple of these. Rest I will be covering onto my next lecture. So let's get started onto this null pointer exception demo, right? So I'll quickly cover over here. There are two exceptions for which I have prepared a program already. right? The very first is the arithmetic exception, right? So what is the arithmetic exception? Arithmetic exception normally occurs when, sorry guys. Okay, so guys, your arithmetic exception normally occurs when some exceptional condition gets occurred at some point of time. So with the help of this particular example, it's very clear. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, yeah. So with the help of this example, guys, it's really clear that let's say a is 20, b is 10. I've taken a particular integer over here. A equals 20, b 10, c equals a by b. So 20 by 10 will give you simply 20, right? So if I just cut it out over here, I'll just remove it. Let's say there are no try catch kind of stuff. If you just simply run this particular program, it will give you the output as 2, right? 20 divided by 10 equals to 2, right? But what if I do like 20, sorry, yeah, divide by 0. If I run this particular program at this point of time, it will say that arithmetic exception. It simply shows that it is an unchecked exception. Why unchecked exception? Because I have already told you guys, because there happens, because it is due to our programming error, these kind of exceptions normally occur, right? They are not checked by the compilers. Okay, so this is an example of arithmetic exceptions, right? In order to handle it, you need to handle it if you want. So if you just apply try over here, and you need to just catch it, cannot divide by 0, let's say. And guys, you have to pass a particular parameter. So there are two things you can pass over here. You can type arithmetic exception and pass an object of arithmetic, or you can just type the exception. If you do not know what kind of exception is it, what the hell is this? Let's say if you are a fresher, you do not know what this arithmetic exception is all about. You see over here, so just refer to my this particular diagram, and you see this is your exception. This is onto the top of your hierarchy. So if you define this particular thing and an object over here like exception, and the object, let's say, up enough, if I write right, then also it will print something, right? So if I run this particular program, now I have handled this particular exception. If we are dividing a number by 0, it will simply return me an infinity. So you cannot do such kind of arithmetic exception, right? X by 0 returns infinity. So this is, I mean, totally, it's gonna give you an arithmetic exception, right? So this was an example of arithmetic exception. Now we are going to understand some other type of exceptions, which are basically known as null pointer exception, right? So for null pointer exception, guys, you need to understand what this null pointer exception is all about and why it normally occurs. So guys, let's talk about null pointer exception, right? So guys, by definition, please try to understand, this is where the crux is all about of this particular lecture, right? Null pointer normally occurs when you do not assign any value to an object, then null pointer exception occurs. If you do not assign any value to an object, your null pointer exception is gonna occur for sure. This is the reason why it normally occurs, right? And it is also thrown when a program tries to use an object reference that has a null value. So what are these lines meaning? I mean, I'm not able to understand. Let's discuss it with the help of an example. Okay, let's say take example of a very first example. So what is our definition saying? First read it. When we do not assign any value to an object, I have highlighted it, I have marked it as bold, I have underlined it. Guys, it means something. This is the reason why I am laying a special emphasis on this particular word. If you do not assign any value to an object, null pointer is gonna appear, right? So let's say this is how you create. There are two ways of creating a string, right? string a equal to Rahul, or you can create by this particular method as well. I'm not going to into detail whether a string is a class xyz. You guys need to find it out, but I'll tell you later on. But at this point of time, these are the two ways by which you can create a particular string, right? So let's say this becomes your object, or you can say the reference variable. Ideally this becomes your object, but at this point of time, let's say this is your object that got created, string s equal to new string Abhinav, right? Or you can also create and particular string, or you can define it onto this particular fashion, like string a equals Rahul, right? What I'm gonna do, what I have done simply is that I have simply replaced a over here with b, right? So wherever there is a, it will replace b, right? And I'm simply printing this output in the form of this particular string. Very simple. Let's print it out. What it says that output is bb hin bb, right? So a is replaced simply by b over here, right? So I hope this much is totally clear to you guys. Now again, let's get back to the definition. The definition says if you do not assign any value to an object, null pointer will occur, right? So let's say if I do not assign any value, see, it says that null pointer onto line 14, right? It says that s dot replace, which means that if s is not representing anything, if s is not holding a value, then it is, simply printing me the output in the form of null pointer dot at this particular line. It says that we do not assign any value to an object, null pointer occurs. So this object does not holds any value. It means that it is gonna give me a null pointer, right? If I assign it as a null value, then also it's gonna give me the same. Why? Because I've assigned it as null. So if there is nothing, so where you are gonna replace it, right? If your food is not present, how you are going to replace that one food with another food? So it basically means in that particular fashion, if your string is not there, how it's gonna replace a with b, right? So this is the reason why this error got occurred. I hope I have made some sense, guys, over here, right? So these are the two ways by which you can create an object of a string class, string s equal to new string, and you can pass out the string, or even with the help of this way. Okay, you can say that this got your object got created simply, and whatever we are talking about, we are talking in terms of an object, right? Again, what is your second definition saying? Your second definition is saying that null pointer is thrown when program attempts to use an object reference that has the null value. So this is your object reference and it got the null value, and this is the reason why your null pointer exception got created, and I have shown you guys with the help of this particular demo, right? Now this was all about your null pointer exception. But now coming back, something happens when we come, to this particular, sorry, onto this particular example, right? So guys, I'm just removing this particular line so that you guys don't even see this. That's it. 20, right? If I just print it out over here, if I just run this particular c equals q by b, I have defined integer over here. What is your integer? Integer, if your wrapper class, if you just click it over here, it says the integer class wraps a value of the primitive type int in an object. So this is where your comes your interview question. Please look at these two programs very carefully. These are very simple. Here we created an object, and when this object was not pointing to anything, or it was modified as null, null pointer got exception got created. This is what the definition says that, But now interviewer got a little bit more deeper into that. He said that, I am creating an object of this integer wrapper class, integer q equal to new integer, and right now it is working fine. So that guy said that, okay, yeah, it is working fine. But what happens that if I do this particular stuff, again I'm creating int a, and I'm not assigning it anything. Let's say c equals a by b. It's the same program. I have just replaced the variables, right? So a, I have not defined anything over here. B, I have not defined anything. I have defined S10 equals A by B. So if I just divide them again, it is showing me, this null pointer exception. But why? Why it is showing me the null pointer exception, unchecked exception of type null pointer? Why it is showing me this? This was the interview question that was being asked. That guy went a little bit deeper. Nothing to worry, but the person who was giving the interview totally got confused because the interviewer said that I am not creating an object over here. I am just creating a local variable which is not even initialized. I hope you guys know, who are watching my lectures, difference between local, global and static variables, right? So this is a local variable and the value of this local variable is not even initialized, but your definition totally says that is thrown when program attempts to use an object reference, or when we do not assign any value to an object. But why I am not creating an object over here, but still I am getting null pointer? So this is where that guy got totally confused and he missed his remaining time period, right? So guys, the answer of this particular question I have already jotted it down over here. First of all, you need to understand that there is a huge difference, or a basic difference between this integer and int. If I start creating lecture, I can give you guys the answer right now, but it's going to take a lot of time because it's already 15 to 20 minutes, right? I would request you guys to just have a look. If not, let me know. I'll create a new lecture for that onto this particular question, right? So it here he said that I have created that an object, or I have created a reference variable. Then if it is showing me a null pointer, by definition it is correct. But here I have simply initialized a local variable and I have not given a value. I have not initialized this, and this is a local variable. Then why in terms of variable it is giving me? And that guy got confused. So the answer is that it can also occur when a variable is accessed which is not pointing to any object and requires nothing or null. This is the answer, guys. If you do not want to go in very much deep, just learn it out. Or I mean, it's one of the ways of why null pointer exception occurs. Is even if you learn it out, then also it's correct to some extent that if you are accessing a variable which is not pointing to any object, or if it is referring to nothing, or it is referring to null, then null pointer may occur in case of variables. This is your data type, this is your variables. I hope you guys know, right? But still null pointer got occurred because by definition it is still correct. But that guy only knew these two definitions. He said that when an object points and or when an object reference is null, or so in this example what interviewer that did is that he did not create any object, but still null pointer exception got occurred. So guys, this is the reason why null pointer exception occurs, because I have told you guys, when a variable is accessed, it is not referring to nothing or none, then also it will occur. By theory it will occur, right? And also you guys need to understand difference between integer and int. You guys can search it out. If not, I'll tell you guys in onto my later lecture, right? So this was, guys, a very important interview question. I thought you guys should know because it may happen with any one of you. These are very very small, non-technical kind of questions, but people simply turn blank if you ask them. Okay, I don't know. So this is what happened. So I wanted you guys to know about this particular stuff as well. And apart from that, guys, I'll be quickly covering. It's been quite while. I would be covering tomorrow. I hope these is array index out of bound illegal, and I will be giving a demo. And also if there is an interview question, I'll surely let you guys know, right? So guys, very 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 much thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you for your time, thank you for your patience, and please stay tuned for your next upcoming interview question. Thank you, thanks a lot.